goes back to 1943, May 1943. I graduated from high school, joined the Navy, left just very shortly after that. Went to Bainbridge, Maryland, way the other side of Baltimore. In fact, it's almost up in Delaware. Started boot camp, about 7 weeks. Well, boot camp wasn't too hard for me physically. I had played basketball, baseball, some football when Mother didn't know about it. Boot camp was over. I was fortunate I got a school, hospital corps school. It was also at Bainbridge. Lasted another 6-7 weeks. We took subjects, I believe, first aid, minor surgery, anatomy, medications, hospital procedures, courses that would help us in the hospital work. During the corps school, there was a group of us, all became very, very close. I think about 5 of us were from Tennessee. Ed Phillips himself was from here in Murfreesboro. Bob Usher was from Old Hickory. A boy from Mount Pleasant and one from down Lawrenceburg. 2 or 3 from Georgia, one from Alabama, one from Mississippi. Usually when you see one, you see just about all of us. We finished corps school and was lucky that all of us were sent down to Millington, Tennessee, to the Naval Hospital down there to learn, put into practice what we had learned. We were there about 3 months. All of us left out then on what we call a draft, going to Lido Beach, New York, out on Long Island, about an hour from Times Square. My job was to form groups as ships become available. 40 corpsmen to the ship. 2 chiefs, 4 first class pharmacist mates, so many second class, third, on down. Well, this allowed our group to still stay together. We put us all in the same group. Well, the day came when our ship pulled in down at Bayonne, New Jersey, LST 523. The LST is 328 feet long, 50 feet wide. It wasn't a big ship. It wasn't a fighting ship. We had guns for our own protection, and thank goodness our gunner mates never put to a test. But anyway, we went aboard up to New York, stopped in Boston for a couple of days, left there and went on up to Halifax, Nova Scotia. We were there about a week. That's where the main convoy was forming. We left out one day. I have no earthly idea how many ships was in that convoy, but if it was half a dozen, at least 100, as far as you could see in front and behind you. Every time a swell would come up, just as far as you could see was ships. We headed for Plymouth, England. The first Sunday that we were out, one of the boys said, I always went to church on Sunday morning. Another one said, yeah, I did too. But these two, maybe another one joined them, sat down on the side of the bunk there and took out a little Testament, little New Testament. Read a few verses, discussed it, I guess 5 minutes at the most. That was the Sunday service. The next Sunday, 3 or 4 more joined. I guess the best Sunday we had maybe a dozen. Some 4 weeks later, we landed in Plymouth, England. Now, Plymouth had been bombed unmercifully. But we pulled in, but we unload, took us 2 or 3 days to unload. We had carried a heavy load across. All the medics left and went to a chemical warfare school. We were gone 2 weeks to a little town called Foy. All this was down on the southern coast of England. Plymouth, Falmouth, Weymouth, all those. We came back from chemical warfare school, began to get ready for the invasion. One day we loaded up. We didn't go out into the channel. We waited that night. When we pulled out then, we knew that where we were headed. We got into Normandy, D-Day, sometime late in the afternoon. The beach hadn't been secured at that time. They were still fighting right there on the beach. We couldn't get in to anchor. LSTs has a flat bottom. They go into the beach. When the tide goes out, you unload and load, and when the tide comes back in, you got to be ready to take off. So we had to anchor out in water, I guess 3 or 4 feet deep. Opened the bow doors, let a ramp down. Army started unloading. I saw several foot troops go down the ramp, those heavy packs, lose their footing, and drown right there at the end of the ramp. I saw many others that made the beach, but didn't go very far until they stepped on a landmine or sniper got them. Their stay at Normandy was very short. As soon as we got unloaded, we started loading casualties. We loaded casualties all night long. Some very, very serious, some not hurt too bad. By daybreak, we were pretty well full, 150 to 175 casualties. Our job was, those that died, take them off into another little area here, clean them up best we could, all over bloody, muddy, some very filthy. But that was our first trip. We got back. As soon as we got the casualties unloaded, we started back restocking. Started unloading the Army back. We take off. We make 3 trips in. No harm done to us, any of our personnel. By this time, the troops are well over into Normandy. We can hit the beach. We're feeling very confident about going in now, being safe. So we load up and take off. We get in about 11 o'clock, 11:30, just before lunch. Had to wait for the tide to get right. So we anchored out, 5 miles out. Had lunch. I got through, I came out of the topside, walked down the rail. 2 soldiers standing there on the side of the rail. Started a conversation with them. We talked a few minutes. One of them said, "This is our truck right here." I said, "Let's just get in and sit down." So we did, 3 of us. We in there talking. We hadn't been in that truck 3 minutes, I don't guess, 5 minutes at the most. All of a sudden we hear this tremendous noise. We could hit a mine. There's a storm building up. Waves were 15 foot, I guess, swells at that time. This mine had been placed there for something that drew a lot of depth of the water. Normally we would have passed right over it, but swell went out just as we went right down on it. It blew a ship completely in 2. Small section out of the middle of it pretty well pulverized everything. Well, with that, we knew that was the end of the boat, the ship. they started jumping off. Some of them were laying down the deck, hurt very bad, arms blown off, legs, all types of injuries, some of them hollering for help. Everybody had pretty well jumped. They could jump. Those that couldn't, the ship was about like that and stood up. And every time a swell would come, it washed a few more off, never to be seen again. Some of them live, some of them dead. But I stood there and watched that until, as far as I know, everybody was off the ship. I would make a positive statement. But the ship was still going down. And I knew at my time a decision had to be made, and I didn't have long to make it. Did I want to stay on the ship and drown with that, or did I want to try to swim and drown? About that time, I looked out over here on the port side. I guess 100, 125 feet out there. One of my buddies, the one from Mississippi, Jack Hebman, had gotten a life raft loose. He hollered at me. He said, "Bill, stay there." He said, "You can't swim out here." He said, "I believe I can get in there to you." But this was one of the biggest risks anybody could have taken, because when that valve went down, it would have created a suction that pulled everything in with it. But Jack didn't hesitate. He started kicking and paddling. But he got, I guess, as close to hit that wall over there to me. I said, "Jack, I can jump that far." And darn near did. I didn't have to hit over one or two licks till I got to that life raft. But we started trying to get away then, and there were soldiers, Army personnel. We got 4 out of the water while we were still in there. 2 of us hurt extremely bad. 2 of them not hurt too bad. The 2 that was hurt so bad, we had to get them out of the water up on the raft. That was about all the raft would take care of. We began trying to get away back to a safe distance, which we did. I don't know how long we was on that life raft. I usually say about 30 minutes, give or take 20 minutes one way or the other. You just don't look at your watch, you keep time at a time like this. Eventually, here comes what we call a small boat, LCVP. He pulled up. We'd loaded the 2 that was hurt extremely bad over into the boat. The rest of us got in it. Coxswain headed into the beach to the first aid station. But by this time, storm had got full force. Swells was, that channel was about as rough as I've ever seen in the water. We'd go a little ways, and one of those swells would hit us and knock us back farther than we had gone. He fought there for I don't know how long. If he hadn't been a good coxswain, we still would have been drowned. Finally, he said, "There's no way I can get to that beach." He said, "Let me see if I can't find a ship that'll take you." So he works his way back over here to a Liberty ship back over here, manned by the Merchant Marines. Pulls up alongside. The old skipper standing up here looking over. He said, "Will you take any survivors?" The old skipper said, "I'll take all you bring me." With that, they lowered a wire basket over the side. The 2 of us hurt so bad, we put in there. They pulled them up to safety. The other 2, same procedure, got them. But for some reason, they took that back and threw a cargo net over the side for us. Now, a cargo net is made out of roping. The square is about so big, you put around a pellet to hold your cargo, to keep it from shuffling all over. Well, when swell would come up, it still lacked, as short as I am, I still lacked about a foot of being able to get that net. But Jack went first. Here come a swell. Jack jumped and caught it, He went up. But next time a swell came in, I was ready. I jumped with all my might. I caught that net. I was like a squirrel. It didn't take me any time to get up that net. We got over on the safe on the ship. The old skipper said, you boys going down to the chow hall, get you something to drink and whatever you want to eat. Said, I'll be there in a few minutes. We went down. I don't remember what I ordered, but brought it out. It was good looking food. Took a bite, and I'd still be chewing. There wasn't any way I could swallow. Tried to take a sip of coffee. No way. No way. But Jack was the same way. We was there looking at it. The old skipper came by, laid his hand on our shoulder. He said, you boys have had a rough day today. He said, I've cleaned out a compartment right down the passageway there for you. He said, go on in there and go to bed. Maybe you can drop off to sleep. But we did. But there was no sleep. Rolled and tumbled. Every time you close your eyes, you relive it. Open your eyes, you still relive it. Sometime after midnight, I rolled over. Jack said, Bill, you awake? I said, Jack, I think I'll never go to sleep again. He said, I can't sleep. I said, let's get up. But we did. We got up, went outside on the open deck. Back next to the bulkhead was a little bench, about as long as those two chairs there. So we took a seat on that bench. We didn't talk much. We knew all it was about each other already, and we sure didn't want to talk about what happened that day. Every once in a while, battleship or cruise or whatever, back in the channel would go to firing. Over here, they'd fire back over. We'd sit there and watch a trace of bullets. I got to thinking, this one had slept in the bunk right there. He was dead. I saw him. No, he was dead. I think about this one. He's married. He's dead. Why had my life been spared when it seemed to me that someone was needed worse than I was? Fathers was killed. Well, I'd been raised in Sunday school, Methodist, come Fred, and I'd been taught that God was good, God was the giver of all gifts, God would take care of you. As I looked back at the sights, I saw the injuries, the suffering, life ended. It was hard for me to believe what I'd been taught. I could have become an atheist very easily that day. But I'd think, what about that life raft? Was that luck that it appeared out there? Nah, maybe it was. I'd think of somebody else. But what about getting in that truck? I'd been crushed by the falling debris if I hadn't been in that truck. Was that luck? Everything that I would think negative, I could think of something happened. Was that luck that took care of me? Sometime before dawn, 74 years ago tonight, I decided that luck hadn't carried me that far. It had to be a power far greater than luck. That was God. On the day we lost our ship, out of 145 Navy personnel we had on board, 117 had lost their lives. 28 of us got off. To me, the amazing thing, out of those 28, every one of us that had attended this little simple church service got off. That's the truth. We stayed there in our camp, I don't know, 7, 8 weeks. Got orders to come back to the States. Left one night, went up across England into Scotland, caught the Queen Elizabeth. Came back to the States in 4 days. 4 weeks to go across and 4 days to come back. From New York, we checked in, got orders down to Norfolk. Got into Norfolk. This doctor called us in to talk to us. We were headed for the Fleet Marines, South Pacific. I was one of the 5 or 6 that he examined. Got through, he came out and he said, well, he said, you boys not in too good a shape. He said, I'm going to send you home for a 30-day leave. So we come home, 30 days, go back. We were there about a week. We'd load up one afternoon, about this time of day, ride all night. Wake up the next morning, we're in Chicago, where they met us there, carried us to Great Lakes, to the hospital. We had been assigned to duty there at Great Lakes. Well, I worked there for, I guess, a month, maybe 6 weeks, on an isolation ward at night. I wound up going down to St. Louis for 3 or 4 months, back to Main Side, boot camp. Not the hospital, but boot camp. Had a little first aid kit on an indoor rifle range in case we had an accident of any kind. I had to put a Band-Aid on or call an ambulance or whatever was necessary. Back home, almost 3 years away. Life moved along, married, I had to leave, raised 2 children, worked at Murfreesboro Electric Department, retired, then went back to work at Woodfins. August 2013, home one morning by myself. I leave, it was at church at watercoloring. Phone rung. Voice on the other end said, this is Doug Hamilton with PBS in New York City. I thought, yeah, I'm Donald Duck too. What are you selling? But I didn't. I treated him very decent. He said, were you any chance on the LST 523? I said, I was. Were you on it when it was sunk? I said, I was. He said, you're the one I'm looking for. He said, we're making a documentary for the 70th anniversary of D-Day. Well, he said, we'd like to invite you all back for 3 or 4 days to film and interview you back to Omaha Beach. I said, I'm sorry, but I can't give you a decision right now. I said, I'll have to talk to Idle see if she thinks we can make it. He said, I'll call you at 11 o'clock in the morning for your answer. But he did. At 11 o'clock, he called right on the dot. He said, have you made a decision? I said, yes, we decided we're going to try to make it. She would have left that afternoon. She had tried to get me to go for the 50th anniversary and the 60th anniversary, and I had no desire to go. But we decided to go. So I told him, I said, I do have one concern, though. He said, what's that? Well, I said, at our age, as long as stay in the States is all right, but I said, going through Paris, and I don't know, if anything happened, I'd feel better if we had. He said, I think that's good thinking. He said, we'll take you. I said, well, you've created another problem. I got 2 daughters. I don't know which one to ask. He said, well, take them both. Yeah, there's one standing at the door with a great-grandson, and my other one, there's her hand. But anyway, but the following Saturday, we went to Nashville, caught a plane, flew to New York, caught a plane, flew all night in Paris the next day. Got in there Sunday morning early, went to the hotel, slept till noon, had a guide to come meet us Carried us all over Paris, I tell you. We covered Paris faster than you could cover Murfreesboro. She knew every corner, every spot. Ate supper that night out on that big wide street out in the outdoor. We was living it up. Next morning, we went down to Normandy. About a 3-hour ride out of Paris. Beautiful countryside, beautiful. Went to American Cemetery that afternoon. One of the most sacred places I think I have ever been. Over 9,000 buried there. One of our doctors was buried there, the only one I know that had a burial. I saw his grave. We spent time, but the people in Normandy, they couldn't do enough for you. I mean, they was kind as they could be. Anyway, great day. The next morning, we leave, go catch a smaller boat, I guess 100, 150 feet long. Doug said, Bill said, on the back here we have a small submarine now. He said, would you like to go down and see what's left of your ship? I said, sure. So the pilot and his assistant and myself, they bring out a 6-foot step ladder, and it's just about the same level as the top of the submarine. Little hole about so big we had to go down through. I get down inside that thing. I had a little shelf about this wide, about 4 foot long, I had to lay on. About this far from me over here, the assistant pilot, name was Andy Sherrill. Incidentally, Andy called me D-Day. We had a nice conversation, still communicates with me. The pilot sits back in the back of his legs between us and a glass in. We start going down. We go to the very bottom of the English Channel, just right on it. We circle around, up and over, around, all around it, just every angle. I couldn't read the number on it, but I saw enough that I was convinced it was our ship. Tanks were still chained to the deck. A couple of them had fallen off. I don't know whether the chains had weakened over age or got damaged in the blast, but a couple of tanks had fallen off. One of the bow doors had fallen off, laying there. But other than that, it was just about like I'd left it. I saw the spot pretty well where I jumped from. So I told him, I said, well, I believe we've seen it all. Yeah, he said, we're just seeing the same thing over and over, but he said, now we'll stay as long as you want to. Well, I said, I think I'm ready to go up. So we came up, they got us out of the water, helped us get out of the submarine. I thought we'd been down maybe 30 minutes at the most. We'd been down on the bottom, hour and 15 minutes, right on the bottom of the English Channel. Next day, we went out on another boat about the same size, but it was a sonar boat. We just watched the whole view of the bottom of the channel. A great experience, one that I appreciate that I can say I made. I appreciate y'all listening to me very much. It's been a privilege to talk to you. May God be as good to each of you as He has been to me. Thank you.